Hello YouTube. In this video I'm going to share with you my top 3 most underrated moves that I believe you should add to your training routine as soon as possible. And these are not going to be the most important, so I'm not going to be talking about big compound movements. I'm not going to be talking about things that people just forget to do completely, like training their arms or training their calves. Things in reality that have more to do with just awareness of the body and not exercise selection per se. Because what I want to share with you is pieces of knowledge and just movement patterns that I never really see people do, meaning that the average gym goer has a tendency to just ignore these completely or do them incorrectly, which leads to a lack of gains. Gains that can be very interesting because to me, these are the movements that you could potentially be doing on a weekly basis, even a bi-weekly basis, for the rest of your life with no injuries, very good progression, and an excellent stimulus that is going to lead to gains. The type of gains that a lot of people desire. Because even though I'm not going to share best lifts for the entire body, the areas of the body that get hit by those lifts tend to be the ones that people want to develop because they look aesthetic, but fail to because they don't have the right practices. So, the number one is going to be the pullover. The pullover is amazing. I cannot believe it took me so long to start doing them. And I know that a lot of you guys are in the same boat where you just don't know. You don't know what you're missing until you start doing them. And nothing has changed my physique more than pullovers. It's amazing. It just makes me look bigger, wider. It flared out my lats. It's even tremendous for the arms, the chest. It truly is, if not the best, one of the best movements for the upper body. I truly believe that if someone is benching and they want to add something to complement that could be as important as the bench or any horizontal presses, it's going to be the pullover. It truly is a must do. And the beautiful thing about the pullover too is that everyone can do it. There are certain lifts like the dips where some people are going to just be counter-indicated. But the good thing with the pullover and the motion of the pullover is that you can have so many variations. You can do them with a dumbbell. You can do them with an easy bar, a normal barbell. You can do them with a supinated grip. You can do them with an incline on the bench. You can do them with a cable machine. You can do them standing up. The standing up variation I don't like as much because the beauty of the pullover is that as you're laying down and you're extending the arm behind you, it really is the weight that is pulling on the arms and the thoracic spine and the entirety of the upper back and upper body. And therefore, you sort of want to do them laying. But it is a game changer. And people ask me all the time, does it really expand the rib cage? And my expertise, which is just based on what I've seen with my body, is yes, it does. I do believe that it does because it spreads the cartilage in between the ribs. And of course, it grows the lats too, which gives the impression of a bigger rib cage. But there are no bad things to say about the pullover. The only thing I would tell you to be careful with is it does require to go into shoulder flexion and extension when you go to the positive and negative. And therefore, some people will suffer because your shoulders might be too stiff. You won't be able to go through the full range of motion and get the extra stretch at the bottom. But that's remediable. You just have to train it. You have to actually start with low weight, work on your mobility, and then you'll get the full benefits. Keep in mind, and that's one tip I'll give you, that when you do pullovers, you want the back of the shoulder to be supported. You don't want them to be hanging because if they're hanging, there's a higher potential for shoulder instability and therefore shoulder damage. But if you want to learn more about the pullover, I'm going to link a video in the description by Geoffrey Verity Scofield, who did an amazing guide about the lift. And he shares my belief that the lift is very important. So I'm sure you're going to get some great information from that. Number 2 is going to be the dumbbell row. And you might tell me, okay, how is that underrated? Everyone does dumbbell row. Well, first off, that's not true. A lot of people favor barbell rows because of the prevalence of strength training on YouTube. But on top of that, the few people that do dumbbell rows do them incorrectly. They have a tendency to just go down and up, down and up. And the issue is that this does not recruit the entirety of the upper back, and it fails to fulfill what a dumbbell row is, because in reality, a dumbbell row is a way to hit muscles of the back without engaging the lower back or the posterior chain if you do them properly. And if we're talking about proper form, again, check the description. I put my own guide in there. There is a way to do dumbbell row. It's not the best way, it's not the only way, but in my opinion, it's the most sustainable, the one that leads to the most gains, and the one that is going to never lead to injuries. Because just like with the pullovers, you can and you should be doing dumbbell rows on a weekly, because there are no bad side effects to it. You're not going to get any type of damage to the structure by doing them if you're serious and if you're actually intelligent about the way you do them. And if we're going to talk about sets and reps, for the pullovers, for example, I would recommend you do something like maybe start with 3 sets of 6 to 10 once a week just to build the mobility, but you can really be greedy with that lift. I do them every 2 days as nucleus overload. You can load them more if you're interested. I'll put a video in the comments where I give you the best practices for the lift. For the dumbbell rows, it's the same. It's going to be in the same message. But the idea with those 2 lifts is that they hit the upper back. They don't hurt or really put you into any situation where you're going to have to struggle with potential obvious injuries in the long run. And on top of that, you can really put them anywhere in the training. They're going to make sense regardless of where you put them because they're just that versatile of movements. And then the number 3, the third move I'm going to be covering is my cat is going crazy outside. The number 3 is going to be the power raise. I personally call them the Arnold raise because that's how I discovered them. But what you want with these movements is you want to find a way to target the shoulder. And a lot of people are going to do presses for that, and that's perfectly fine. You need to do presses. But eventually you start realizing that the side and the rear delts are not getting enough activation. And so you might start doing lateral raises or bent over lateral raises. And I like these too, but the problem with them is that you are going to find that for a lot of people, your traps get overutilized. And that's when it's going to limit your ability to recruit the delts. And a lot of people also find that they get hurt on lateral raises. And if you want to push the intensity of the movement, eventually you might handle a load that is going to hurt your shoulder. And the best way to remedy that is the Arnold raise. It's a type of lateral raise that you do on a bench with a maximal range of motion that is going to be an easy way to use lighter weights with stricter form because you're not standing up so you can't really cheat. And that is also super easy to recover from, meaning that when you first start, they're going to destroy your rear delts like you've never seen. But then when you get used to it and the body acclimates to it, you can start doing them twice a week if you wanted, if big shoulders are your goal. And again, if you look at the picture I'm painting right now, pullovers develop the lats and they make the ribcage bigger. The dumbbell rows are going to develop the entirety of the upper back, depending on the grip too, because again, these are very adaptable. You can play with them and you should play with them because you will find that a dumbbell row, for example, can really hit the traps, the lats, the rhomboids, everything if you know how to play with it. And then the last one is for the shoulders. If you look at the areas of the body I just told you about, this is what a lot of people think is aesthetic. A nice V-taper, big round shoulders created by the medium and rear delt, and a thick meaty upper back. A lot of people strive for that. But when you look at their program, there's nothing in there that reflects it. There's a lot of squats and deadlifts and benches and whatever, but they're missing these underrated movements. And it's the same for the Arnold raise. You can and you should include it in your training on an upper day. It's just the perfect crime. All of these lifts are, as I said, sustainable and so incredibly effective that for you not to do them would be a little bit silly. And therefore, I highly encourage you to include them in your training. And again, for all of the details and minutiae of the practices, check the description. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.